Director CSIR-NIIST, Dr. C. Krishnan, Dr. Sanjay Bihari, Dr. Radha Krishnan, our Chief Scientist, members of the faculty, members of the scientific fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I have to profusely thank the director. Jubilee is there, but the film shown is on the minister. So I think that's a paradox, which gives me, of course, a misplaced pleasure. But I wish next time you show a film based on 50 years of NIIST. But nevertheless, I do feel flattered and humbly grateful for your gesture. And I think what was shown about me having done is what normally I should have done. It's not that an achievement in the other sense. It's part of my job. What was done was all done by the scientific fraternity. The credit incidentally goes to the minister for lighting the lamp and saying all the goody things. But I think all the good things that have happened is because of the dedicated, combined effort of the entire CSIR family and the entire ministry as a whole, which includes the other wings as well. So at the outset, I think I have to formally congratulate the entire NIIST team for this Golden Jubilee celebrations. And even though the NIIST is 50 years ago, it's 50 years old, the CSIR is more than 85 years old. So you are still a very young baby in the large family of CSIR. And even though you may be just 50 years old when the head of the family is 85 plus, though being relatively young, you have traversed a very long journey in a short time. And I think that is evident from the report that was being given by Dr. Krishnan. I think there was a very limited expectation from this institute when it was actually conceived, set up and then researched. But like a child in the family about whom the parents don't think much, but they are compelled to revise their opinion when he starts excelling and starts topping in the class. Finally, the CSIR and the government and the ministry had to change their opinion about the institute and realize that this was no longer confined to exploring some of the resources in a particular region of the country. It had acquired a profile which has become pan-India. When you started excelling as an interdisciplinary institute of excellence. And today, I have the and for the young boys and girls, the startup groups abroad give a preference. And if you say, I mean, unlike 10 years ago, if you said you were from India, they didn't think much of you. Today, if you say so, you improve your prospects of getting a job or even getting an R&D assignment abroad. So that is why I said this Golden Jubilee was destined to happen at a time when we are actually celebrating science. We are according the kind of respect that science innovation deserves. And this has also been possible because we have a Prime Minister who is very supportive, who is very patronizing about all the research, innovation, startups, and at the same time very encouraging if we gather courage to take out-of-box decisions, of course with conviction. And you had very kind words about DG Kalai Selvi. I hope somebody would convey to her, she could not make it today, how much of appreciation she received from Sanjay Bihari and also from Krishnan. And when they were so profusely admiring her, the thought that occurred to me in my mind was that though she happens to be the first woman DG of CSIR, she appears to be standing heads and shoulders above the men around her, at least in the terms of her qualities of head and heart. So I'm glad that that kind of comradeship is there in the CSIR fraternity today. And we had a program this morning where also we had the Rajiv Gandhi's Institute Director being there. He's of course joined us over here also, and all the other directors. And I was also making this observation over there. The time has come for us to get integrated. So CSIR has to get closer to biotechnology, and biotechnology has to get closer to DST, and DST has to get closer to space, because all your agricultural success stories are made successful through space technology. Then you have to get closer to the aviation, because all your inputs are gathered through drones. And then you have to get closer to a smart businessman, because your sustainability in the market is ensured from home. So in other words, if you are looking forward to observe the centenary of the institute, you have to look for a wider integration among academia, among research, among startups, and of course, industry, and not depend solely on government sector. And as far as this government is concerned, we are very open to all your initiatives. Please don't hesitate engaging in PPP models, because there might have been some skepticism in the earlier government, there might have been some reservation in the earlier government, but we are very clear that if we have to move beyond this, we have to move in an integrated manner, and we have walked the talk. I think the best example is of the space sector, which nobody could have imagined would one day open up to the non-government sector. For 60, 70 years, it was functioning behind a wheel of secrecy. The result was that we could not make the kind of progress that we wished to, and we always drew comparison with NASA, without realizing that NASA has 70-80% dependence outside the government sector. But in the last 3-4 years, when we revised our policy, we opened it up to the PP model, there's a quantum jump. We just had one digit startup 3 years back in the space sector. Now today it's gone up to 300. And our first generation space startups are now of the world class. They have now moved on to the next level of entrepreneurship. And our space economy has also become one of the important components in India's overall economy. So I think, and learning from that experience, we also had the courage and the conviction to float our own National Research Foundation very recently, the NRF, which has been in keeping with the Indian ethos, named as Anusandhan. And our National Research Foundation, I can say with confidence, is a better version of what the Americans have or the Germans have. We've studied all the models, and again, it is about 60 to 70% dependent on non-government sources, both financially as well as knowledge-wise. And the representation in the governing body, in the executive body, is not limited only to the various streams of scientists or scientific representatives. It also involves representatives from the social sector, from humanities, from also the human resource development, so that we could also involve the Indian ethos. And when we plan our projects, we have in mind and consideration A, what is going to be viable, not only within India, but globally, because if you are looking for a global role. And B, what is going to be viable industrially. And C, what is going to have relevance for the society. And that is why we have given it a wider spectrum of representation. And I'm sure in the times to come, institutes, upcoming institutes like this will also be one of the major beneficiaries of that. In the same way, I have also to record my appreciation of these two inaugurations which were done remotely. One of course, the Ayurveda Center. Kerala, being known for Ayurveda, has turned out to be a huge tourism destination for Ayurveda management, whether it's curative or it's for wellness. I think by having your own center, for which the foundation stone is laid today, you could integrate all those mushrooming centers over here, which would avoid overlap, which would also avoid pilferage, which would also make up for any kind of grievance or complaints emanating. So you could have one big integrated center. And secondly, you could also raise the quality standards, and with the quality control, you could determine some parameters and standards for the others to follow. So while living up to the traditional legacy of the Kerala therapy, you could actually add some of the modern inputs and modern ingredients to it without, of course, becoming dogmatic about it. The second one, of course, the chemical and polymers. As we talk of Viksit Bharat, we talk very fondly of Atmanirbhar Bharat, but we don't realize how are we going to become that or how are we going to achieve that. So achieve that, we have to reduce our dependence on others. And I think this is one of the areas, initiatives which might help us to reduce our imports and dependence on other countries, which would also, of course, help in hand-holding or better hand-holding of the industry. And finally, contribute to the boosting of the startups. And when I was going through the paper handed over to me by the director, I was delighted because that also happens to be close to the area of work that I do. The game-changing technology for pathogenic biomedical waste management. So I think that's going to be a huge, huge contribution because this is an issue being confronted all across the country, north, south, east, west, northeast. Not only the waste quantity is increasing, the waste disposal is also becoming very ill-managed. And the waste which emanates from hospital or healthcare centers itself becomes a source of disease. So you get cured, then live with that waste and again go back to the same hospital. So it's like old time, that joke used to be there. If you go to a dentist, he would set right one tooth and quietly shake the other one so that you come back to him very soon. So the same waste going out in the society becoming a source of illness and making people fall sick. So it's not only a contribution to the society, you're also going to contribute to the circular economy that India is looking forward to and which is going to be the major game changer, not only for this country, for the rest of the world as well. And of course, combined with the agri-waste initiative. And this morning, soon after we landed, we had the first ever airport-based air pollution monitoring facility installed at the Thiruvananthapuram International Airport. So I have to compliment you for that also. Of course, only one lady is impressed. So they were right in appreciating the lady DG. Because, see, the air monitoring facility, nobody has clapped except one. Please stand up and say, so that others can understand. Okay, thank you. So no wonder why Sanjay Bihari and the director were so appreciative of the lady DG. So they can understand what we need to understand. But nevertheless, what I was trying to explain is, of course, we already have air pollution monitoring facilities all around in different places. But it is the first time that at an airport we are going to install this. And that also, I think, because I've been of a very serious view that unless we make our applications relevant to others, they would not realize our importance. Otherwise, they would think that we are mostly, dealing in the labs. Like, I have been encouraging the directors to engage stakeholders in most of these programs. So we had a program in one of the CSIR institutes which was largely dedicated to agriculture research, aroma research. So I suggested to the director very emphatically that we should have a group of farmers there. And he managed over 200 farmers. And then I said, we would not do any talking, let them talk. And they gave us fascinating speeches. Many of them said they had come here for the first time. They said they used to cross this, but never entered into the gate, never peeped into the gate. And they said somebody also told us that they cut frogs there and cut monkeys there to do research, all kind of scientists doing all kind of mischievous research inside, and ghosts dance in the night. And he said some bhoot raat ko nachte hain, because all kind of research is being done there. So that was the impression being gathered about an institute which is hugely, hugely contributing to the agricultural research of this country. And after that experience, we could at least, within a few months, initiate at least 3 or 4 young boys into floriculture. One of them who is in touch with us, who's become a kind of a brand ambassador, is now into export quality entrepreneurship. He's preparing all those flower things and flower designs and bouquets on order as desired and sending them to all corners of the country. So unless we reach out and we allow others to come to us, we would not be able to make them realize what we are doing for them, and they would not be able to get benefit of that. And that is exactly what has happened in the case of space sector also. We kept ourselves away from the space sector, and many of our boys who were passing out from this institute, in Trivandrum itself, the Space Institute, they were at least 60% of them, every batch would go over to NASA because they didn't find any job opportunities over here, and they thought there was no interest in the space sector as far as India is concerned. But now things have changed dramatically in 3-4 years. So I think next time when we observe the Diamond Jubilee, the director may not be same, but the minister will not be same. But one of you who would be the director at that time should keep in mind that you should have a program where you could have a larger audience, the stakeholders, not only confined to the scientific fraternity, but also the non-scientists, because science belongs as much to the non-scientists as to much to the scientists, and it would become irrelevant if it is not taken up by the scientists. And as far as this air facility is concerned, I am glad that in the COVID times, CSIR was also successful in installing air purifiers in the Parliament House, those ultraviolet ones for the clearing of the microbes. And similar experiment, though of a different nature slightly, has been done today also. We have started intruding into other domains, making them realize what we can do for them, because otherwise they were not aware of it. We have also now entered into Jal Shakti program for this heli-borne detection of water inside, which was not happening earlier. They didn't know that we had this technology. Unfortunately, even in the government sector, many of the other departments don't know that we have facilities which are of relevance to them. So we could have more and more of interactive programs. You could actually dedicate this 1 year of Golden Jubilee to a calendar of these programs. So each of your technology could have an interactive session for a day or a half a day with the concerned department. Like one with the agriculture, the other with the aviation, so on and so forth. So that at least they know what it is. And there you could have representatives both from the government as well as the non-government sector. That will also generate a considerable amount of revenue for you if you are able to enter into some PPP deals. And today, as I said, we are now assuming a global role. So we need to have a global vision and devise global strategies to live up to those benchmarks. You refer to the international festival that is being scheduled at Guwahati with and very thoughtfully the theme for that was selected to be the transforming India into a science and technology driven global manufacturing hub, because that is now the next ladder in our ascent to the becoming of Viksit Bharat of 2047. So we have already, as far as biotechnology is concerned, we are already one of the biggest biomanufacturers in the world, I think among 3 or 4 in the India Pacific. So the strides have started happening very rapidly, and you could actually engage yourself in that. And therefore, on this occasion of Golden Jubilee of NIIST, I hope and I wish we would be able to draw a roadmap for the next 25 years. Because when India turns 100, you will be about 75. So you are about 25 years younger to Mother India and about 15 years younger to Mother CSIR. So you have 2 elder motherly icons to live up to. And you could devise a roadmap so that how best you could contribute to the making of that Viksit Bharat of 2047. And particularly with the focus on the younger lot of our colleagues in the 2nd or 3rd decade of their life who are actually going to be at the prime of their career in 2047 and who has actually been blessed by the destiny to be known as the architects of 2047 India. And what we could do today is to contribute to their capacity building so that they can live up to that expectation and that privileged role that the destiny has decided for them. Thank you very much.